they were prevented from going into the room. There are two doctors who were present there. They also attempted to verify the safety and security of the chairman and her health and well-being. What happened? They were arrested and taken to the Breakdown police station. I don't know under what circumstances they were released last evening, if it was on bail or otherwise, but they were released until almost midnight last night, having been in custody for several hours. For doing what? For trying to ascertain the health and well-being of the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission.
As a commissioner, have you been able to contact the chairperson or the CEO since yesterday?
I made several attempts to contact the chairman specifically, and we were unable. As you can see, I want to say this before. We are being surrounded by several persons who seems to be supporters of the APNU plus AFC. I just want to put it out there before I go.
Can you tell us how many hours she was
No,
working
before the chairman was in that room for several hours. Well, what's the other part of the question?
Have you been able to contact
That was the
them?
chairman. The chief elections officer came yesterday morning and informed myself and several other members of the commission that there was a bomb threat received to the building and we were asked to leave. That was the last time I saw him. Shortly thereafter, I saw Karen Cummings come into the building, sequester a room. I already said this to you yesterday. She sequestered a room at the Guyana Elections Commission and ordered members of the observer missions and members of the diplomatic corps in the room. And I have seen a video posted on social media in which she threatened to revoke the accreditation of those persons who are accredited under law, and then she hastily left. While I was addressing the media outside of the building, I saw two vehicles speeding off, and I was later informed that one vehicle contained the chief elections officer and the other was an escort vehicle. Up to this time, we have not seen or heard from the chief elections officer, and that was around between 9 and 10 yesterday morning.
Now it's 10:27. Do you think GCOM will be shut down all day today? Do you feel that there will be no GCOM operation here today?
GCOM has several offices. This one specifically that we are attempting to access is the office of the returning District 4. The specific reason, like I said, the reason why we attempted to access this building, it was because there is a statutory requirement for lodging of the request for recount. That the building remains closed and we have not been able to access it.
But is that a task of a commissioner?
Pardon me?
Is that a task of a commissioner?
I am not attempting to lodge a request for recount, sir. No. I, as a commissioner of the Guyana Elections Commission, am entitled by law and by the Constitution from whence I got my fiat to access any office statutory of the Guyana Elections Commission.
And for the other declarations, could you say the other regions, the other 9 regions, were those declarations done statement by statement verification?
All of the other regions, region 1 to 10, with the exception of 4, was done statement by statement in the presence of the persons entitled by law to attend.
Spreadsheets were not used there.
No, they were done statement by statement.
So spreadsheets were used before in the elections
Not as far as I'm aware.
in 2015?
No, I can't recall. I don't believe they were used in 2015 as well.
Let me make a statement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, my name is Charles Ramson. I'm the counting agent for Region 4. So,
The arm rams that are here to physically remove us from here.
If they leave, arrest them. If you fail to leave, they arrest you. So they're coming right. Squad and the we have to leave. Huh? Yes, that's them. Yeah, but they're moving me out of the place now. I'm telling you, so if you come to me, sorry. Yeah. Hey, let me get some lights. I cut up these lights. Yeah. Watch. When the people come over the place, people go out, yeah, just walk them out. Just walk them out.
Can I get those lights?
Sorry, no. You need to exit. No, you need to exit. Just collect these stuff. You should have been doing that long ago. Bring the time for wasting that long ago. I don't have time for wasting you stupidness. No problem, sir. Good. I was the commander told us
Why you're a politician officer?
Let's go. The commander told us to stay under it. We was told to stay here by the
So you're being physically removed from the building. The heavily armed ranks.
Watch your back, watch your back.
Watch it. Exit the barrier.
All those SOB left, we are unattended without locking, right?
Supposed to be upholding
The place in lock, right? Why didn't we build?
But I see that the place is locked.
Why we see them put on a chain? They have to put a chain to be let them.
Yeah. But I see that. All respect. Yes.
I am asking that you let they put the chain, the people from GCOM put the chain on, please.
Yeah.
They asked us earlier to put a chain. I am asking now for y'all to let them put the chain on, please.
Yeah, please help us with that.
So who is the commander?
Advice.
Who is it? Could we have a chain on the building, please? Hello, sir. Could we have a chain on the? Could we see the door locked before we leave here? Could we see the door locked before we leave here?
That is our right.
Could we see the door locked before we leave and get the key? Yes. Let me just see how the door there before anybody go in and check anything at present right now.
You can't touch you, officer.
No, touch mistake.
You can't touch you. So that door behind you there, it's unattended. No, don't insult the ranks. They have their jobs to do. The reality is that the police have been instructed. They have to carry out their instructions, and that is the reality. So we understand that much. Our fight here is not with the police, the Guyana Police Force. Our issue is with the Guyana Elections Commission and the illegal regime.
That we fight so hard for,
and
that is there. We are asking for it to lock.
And an illegal regime that is using every single aspect of the state to suppress our freedom or democracy. That is our issue. We do not have any issue with the Guyana Police Force. We understand that they have their jobs to do. They have their instructions. But this madam promised us to secure that door minimum if she forced us out.
One person.
Counting agent for Region 4. So the person who is entitled by law to be able to request a recount on any political party is the counting agent. I'm the counting agent on behalf of the political party that I represent. I have my letter here, and the returning officer's office is right behind us at the Ashman's building. That building has been closed probably since last night. It is very unusual since the election hasn't been concluded as yet, because we do not have a final declaration of the result. We do not have a new president sworn in as yet. It is very unusual for there to be the office of the returning officer to be closed. So all I'm trying to do is to deliver this letter, which is supposed to go up until 12 o'clock. I want everyone to know that if we go through the verification process and this process shows us that David Granger won the election, I'll be the first to congratulate him. I'll be the first to make the announcement to say that we respect the result of the election, and we respect the office of the president, and we respect that he is the new president. All that we were trying to do is to see that the verification process happened. That did not occur. You saw all the statements being made by the international community, international observers, local observers. They started to do the process and then stopped it, not even doing 40% of it. All of it requires the verification to be done. And like I said, I don't want any kind of favors from anyone. This is what is required by law. And I would be the first to congratulate David Granger if it is that it proves that the verification process turns out to be that he won the election. I'm not trying to be unfair with anyone. I'm not trying to be partisan in this process. This is a process which, if people don't accept it, it means that we don't accept the leadership of our country, and it causes everyone to be in a state of uncertainty. A lot of international sanctions are going to happen. Those things affect each and every one of us as Guyanese. I'm Guyanese, I've got a family here. We want to see the best for our country. So all we're requiring is to see that the process is done in a fair and lawful way. All of the regions had this process done excepting for Region 4. They had the verification process. That verification process declared that the PPP had a 52,000 lead. Why is it that they stopped the verification process with only 40% of the boxes done? We just want the verification process to be done. Like I said, I'm not doing, what I'm requesting for is what is allowed and required by law. So if anybody wants to think that I'm being partial, we're not being partial. We want to see that the country is run in the way where all of the institutions are respected. If it is the case that we're trying to deliver a letter to the returning officer, whose office is supposed to be right there and it's supposed to be open, why is it closed? Why is it closed? And if we don't get the letter in, we can't get the process of verifying the result done. That's all. If every single one of you here, and the media included, so I want to thank you for bringing attention to this issue, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. But if Guyana wants to see that we benefit in a fair way from the government that we have, you need to make sure that the process of electing our leaders is also fair, right? So if it is the case that this verification process is required by law, we should go through the process. All right? Thank you very much.
Have all the documents, extra documents, them statement of poll, extra ballots and so. And we found it very strange. As a matter of fact, I know when I was working in the regions and they have recounts, they normally call the agents with their SOPs and the RO SOPs, and right there they do a recount and they adjust the ballot, the SOPs. So I decided to call Mr. Nandalal, who have a large, come here. He has spoken to them, and they have decided not to open the container after Mr. Nandalal would have spoken to them. But we found this is very, very strange that after an election, after they would have declared the Region 4 results, now they are calling for blank SOPs, and we are very concerned and we are very suspicious of their activity at GCOM. I'll ask my colleague Mr. Nandlal to continue, and he will give you the legal aspect of it and some of the determination, what we know, that things that are taking place in the region.
Thank you very much. As I have explained over and over again, the electoral process is a statutory process. What that means is that it's a legal process set out in an act of Parliament called it Representation of the People Act. Every step of the electoral process is laid out section by section. And once this code is followed, then we shouldn't have any problem. The problem that we have had is that this code is being repeatedly violated. This statutory procedure is being repeatedly violated. Now, requests for recounts, or what is called final counts, that is the name, the legal term for a recount, a final count. Requests for that have been made in several regions, including Region 4. In terms of Region 5, and 6, we were told that we need to come and open a container in Georgetown that is a container that has all excess materials for the elections, like extra ballots, extra state. Now that, a recount has nothing to do with that. A recount, as it says, is a review of a count already made. The count was already made at the place of poll by the presiding officers and the polling agents at the close of poll. You recall that? So if you want a review of that, the law is very clear, and English language is very clear. A recount means a review of a count already done. It cannot involve, and it does not contemplate, the intrusion of alien material, something that was not counted before. So, and the law sets out how this recount or final count is done. The ballot box in question is opened, and each ballot is examined and recounted. You can't count something that was not counted before in a recount. You can only count what was already counted, as the word recount suggests. So this request for something additional, for new statement of poll or a blank statement of poll, is sinister. As you know, we are deeply suspicious that there will be, or there is, an attempt to fabricate
we are going to make life better for you. This is an opportunity for young people to get a job. For mothers to get off squatting on the dams and to live in proper houses. For public servants and nurses and teachers and people cleaners to get their money in the pocket. We are serious about our promises to you. We want you to have a better life. This is not about oil, this is about Guyanese living a decent life. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. APME thanks you. AFC thanks you. From 2011, 2015, 2020, we have worked together because we want to see Guyanese people live in dignity in the Caribbean, in the world. And I believe this to the bottom of my heart. I believe that only a coalition such as APNU and AFC will be able to live like you.
This is a coup d'etat. It's hijacking an election and getting yourself sworn in, not based on the democratic will of the people. This is a coup d'etat. May I just say something? That the Chancellor and the Chief Justice, I want to call on them not to be part of this shameful act of stealing an election. It will taint them for life if they're part of this shameful act of stealing an election. And the police and the army, they must by now be reading the statements from the international community, that they know that the international group was here to help verify the results, that the results have not been verified, they're fraudulent results. This has come from all the parties here, as well as the international community. They too, they have to uphold the rule of law. They have to respect the Constitution of Guyana, which guarantees free and fair elections, which guarantees a fair process outlined through the electoral laws. They too must not follow an illegal regime. We have to call on people to take a stand, and right across this country.
This is an embarrassment. This entire process that we've all sat here and witnessed as a democratic nation, as the entire world has watched this emerging oil giant have its first elections after such a monumental discovery. to be sitting here at this table now and speaking on the brink of a dictatorship. This is not about PPP, PNC, or politics. This nation has to understand that at the end of the day, we are all Guyanese. And when this slips away, our rights, our freedom, all that we have come to pass and know in this country, no longer exists. If we look just over our border, we've seen it in Venezuela. We've seen it in Middle East nations. We've seen it in African nations. You watch it on the news, you watch it on social media, and you sit here and you say, that could never be us. That could never happen. Well, we are all sitting here now witnessing it. And for all of you at home that thinking to yourself, this can't end that badly, well, it can. And you need to appreciate that. I'm not saying this to instill fear. I just need a lot of you out there at home to understand what is happening. We have teams right now, as we speak, sitting in the GCOM headquarters, guarding our statements of polls, because that is our last credible evidence of what actually transpired during this democratic process. I know that may swing over some people's heads. You may not understand why, well, PPP has their own evidence, as does APNU. But that's not how things work. All right? As a democratic nation, we have an independent voice. Each one of us, it's our vote. And we expect an organization like GCOM to uphold our rights. As it stands right now, as I have witnessed today, GCOM is no longer, even as far as I'm concerned, in existence. No one is to be found, no chairman, no CEO, nothing. Elections has been declared publicly from behind closed doors without any verification. Now, I know there's half of this country that is sitting there saying, this is wonderful news, we've won. But do you understand, as United Guyana Chairman Timothy Jonas has said, that this winner-take-all means that, for all you know, that next elections you'll be on the losing side of this? And then what? You slip into despair and desperation on your own? And that's what we're going to do? We're going to become a nation of half of us prospering, half of us suffering every 5 years? Be realistic. You've read all the reports. You know what we're on the brink of. You know what Guyana has to offer. Offer all of us as citizens. It requires a process of inclusivity now. And unless our system of governance changes, this is going to continue. Nothing has changed after this election. If they decide, if GCOM gets up right now and says, how about we just go back to the SOPs and we all just verify them and then we accept the results? What is stopping this from happening again next election? Be realistic, Guyana. And we're all sitting here now, in my last statement, as we sit here now, in a form of unity at this one press conference, I'm going to plead with my colleagues here, with my fellow politicians here, don't be hypocrites in the future. Okay? We're all sitting here in this position now, and this is our time to understand that change is necessary. Don't be.
I think yesterday when we attempted to look at the process that existed, there was a spreadsheet that was being used. There was some disagreement in terms of the spreadsheet and the population of that spreadsheet. When we got into the room, there was also a heated discussion. The Liberty and Justice Party objected. We clarified and we confirmed that the only document that should be used for verification are the SOPs, and we thus requested that, to which the CEO agreed, and all three parties the APNU AFC, the Liberty and Justice Party, and the PPPC all agreed that the process that will be used for verification will be the SOPs. After we started that process, we got to a point and we took about an hour and a half break for dinner. Then the clerks came back and started, I think they would have completed another 4 for Region 4, after which they said, you know what, we are tired. We understand that sometimes the staff of GCOM are potentially overworked. Sometimes they also have conditions that may prohibit them from being up for long hours. But I also want to draw something to what the presidential candidate of the PPPC said. While we agree with a significant amount of it, there are some things that are absent in that discussion. It seems very suspicious that the chair of GCOM was inaccessible to all political parties today. Every attempt that we, the Liberty and Justice Party, made to access the chair for a discussion, for a clarification, or anything of the sort, and also the CEO, those things have not materialized into anything. What we also understand is that the CEO was present at the command center. We also understand that the chair was present at the command center for the entirety of the day. And when we requested these things, nothing came to fruition. At the end of the day today, if I were to walk back a little bit further, last night at conclusion of the tabulation of the SOPs, Mr. Keith Lowenfield, the CEO of the Guyana Elections Commission, committed to all the political parties present, inclusive of the observers, that the process will resume at 9 o'clock in the morning and continue until finality, of which when our agents showed up this morning, nothing of said occurred, only to realize that the DCEO came in and followed along the lines which the presidential candidate, Mr. Ali, presented. Also, at the end of the day today, there was a lot of commotion around the unwanted and involuntary confinement of Madam Chair. When the political parties attempted to have access to her, we were told, inclusive of the commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission, were told that they could not see her. I stood there at the stairs when those instructions were clearly delivered, that the commissioners in themselves did not have access to the chair. Shortly thereafter, we saw a medical team, an ambulance show up at the structure. We saw a medical team come in with an oxygen tank, a stretcher, and a medical bag. They proceeded up the stairs. They had a short discussion. After that, they departed. At that point, the Liberty and Justice Party became very concerned about the health and well-being of the chair of GCOM, because were anything to happen to her, not only would it be tragic for her and her family, but it would also be tragic for our nation. When we attempted to intervene and have that addressed, we were met with resistance. When I say resistance, I'm talking verbal. We are not a violent party by any means, and I don't think any of my colleagues here are also in that line. But when we attempted to have a discussion with the chair, the Guyana police force in themselves said that you cannot do that, and they simply pushed us back. At some point during the course of the evening, someone, I was not present when the door was breached, but someone breached the door, and when the door was open, there was a lot of distress and concern, because the report that we received was that Madam Chair was lying on the ground in a position that people looking in would have assumed that she might have been incapacitated. At which point, the General Secretary for the New Movement, Dr. Josh Kanai, went into the room to ascertain her well-being. Also, an observer went into the room to ensure that nothing was afoot. What we understand is that after that happened, that Madam Chair was moved to another room, and then there was Dr. Kanai was arrested, and the international observer was also arrested. And at this point, it almost seems like we, from the Liberty and Justice Party, have been placed in a position where we do not have any kind of confidence. When I say confidence, I mean absolutely no confidence in any declaration that has emanated from the RO at this point, because all of that information has not been confirmed. No one sat there and scrutinized those. If I were to walk back a little bit, based on the actions last night, what happened is that the clerk or the person who was entering the data, when he pulled up a screen, he accidentally pulled up a screen that was already populated for Georgetown with numbers that were far, far, far removed from what we have on our SOPs. And that in itself is evidence of tampering with data to present a false, what I'd say, declaration to the population of Guyana. And I don't think that it would be responsible of any single credible news media in Guyana to present anything other than facts and anything that is generated outside of the legal framework that exists. There is provision in the law that when, before a declaration is made and for the verification process, I think it is under Section 83 of the Representation of Peoples Act, don't quote me on that, that it says that the verification method, the verification of the polls or the generation of the polls has to be verified through the SOPs, and we are still awaiting that process to be concluded. I find it very disturbing that the APNU AFC can move to a declaration without credible information at this point.
Good night, everyone. The new movement absolutely rejects the declaration made by GCOM. All that we've been calling for is free and fair elections, but this was clearly not the case today. At the beginning, we were pleased with the polling stations, but after the returning officer fell sick and we saw what started to happen, we realized that things were in play to put aside free and fair elections. As you see, we're all seated here tonight. It's not just a case of parties coming together to give a statement. This is a cry from the people of Guyana, from citizens, saying my democratic right has been taken away from me, and I'm being forced to accept a decision that was not valid. We call for the verification to continue. We also say that so far, our numbers have been adding up with the statement of polls put aside by the PPP presented so far. We would like it to be free and fair. We need for GCOM to stand up and take responsibility for what they have done. All day, they have hidden from us. We could not have access to Ms. Claudette Singh. We could not have access to Mr. Lowenfield. And it was so terrible that the joiner so far had 1 seat, and after their declaration, it disappeared. Would anybody be able to tell me where that went? It's a question I have for GCOM. And they're not presenting themselves to us. They've been hiding. If you are innocent, why hide? That's what we try to ask them today. My member is currently still at the Brigham police station. Innocent, we have him on video, but he's arrested. Why? We're a young party, we're the youth, they're gonna pick you up. Try to intimidate us, but we will not back down. As we're sitting here, our members are being forcibly removed from the Mashman's building. And they're standing their grounds. They're saying, no, we will not leave the statement of polls alone, because that is an obvious attempt to tamper with them. But they're standing their ground, they're still there. When we're finished here, we're going back to them. We are falling into a state of dictatorship, and every Guyanese could see this. If you know what's good for yourself, what's good for your country, you also need to stand up for it, but not in a violent way. Use your voices. Right now, as it is, there are crowds all over the country. I urge our citizens to be safe. I urge them to detest from racial slurs. I urge them not to get into any fights or negativity or altercations with their neighbors. Because after these elections, all of us need to work together. We still need to have lives. We still need to go to work, have our kids in school. But as it is at the moment, I'm getting reports that schools are half empty, businesses are shut, nobody wants to go to the market. How can we go forward as a nation? It's already on the line of a dictatorship. So please, let the elections be fair and free. Let the validation continue. Thank you very much.
And speaking on the brink of a dictatorship, this is not about PPP, PNC, or politics. This nation has to understand that at the end of the day, we are all Guyanese. And when this slips away, our rights, our freedom, all that we have come to pass and know in this country, no longer exists. If we look just over our border, we've seen it in Venezuela. We've seen it in Middle East nations. We've seen it in African nations. You watch it on the news, you watch it on social media, and you sit here and you say, that could never be us. That could never happen. Well, we are all sitting here now witnessing it. And for all of you at home that thinking to yourself, this can't end that badly, well, it can. And you need to appreciate that. I'm not saying this to instill fear. I just need a lot of you out there at home to understand what is happening. We have teams right now, as we speak, sitting in the GCOM headquarters, guarding our statements of polls, because that is our last credible evidence of what actually transpired during this democratic process. I know that may swing over some people's heads. You may not understand why, well, PPP has their own evidence, as does APNU. But that's not how things work. All right? As a democratic nation, we have an independent voice. Each one of us, it's our vote. And we expect an organization like GCOM to uphold our rights. As it stands right now, as I have witnessed today, GCOM is no longer, even as far as I'm concerned, in existence. No one is to be found, no chairman, no CEO, nothing. Elections has been declared publicly from behind closed doors without any verification. Now, I know there's half of this country that is sitting there saying, this is wonderful news, we've won. But do you understand, as and United Guyana Chairman Timothy Jonas has said, that this winner-take-all means that, for all you know, that next elections you'll be on the losing side of this? And then what? You slip into despair and desperation on your own? And that's what we're going to do? We're going to become a nation of half of us prospering, half of us suffering every 5 years? Be realistic. You've read all the reports. You know what we're on the brink of. You know what Guyana has to offer. Offer all of us as citizens. It requires a process of inclusivity now. And unless our system of governance changes, this is going to continue. Nothing has changed after this election. If they decide, if GCOM gets up right now and says, how about we just go back to the SOPs and we all just verify them and then we accept the results? What is stopping this from happening again next election? Be realistic, Guyana. And we're all sitting here now, in my last statement, as we sit here now, in a form of unity at this one press conference, I'm going to plead with my colleagues here, with my fellow politicians here, don't be hypocrites in the future. Okay? We're all sitting here in this position now, and this is our time to understand that change is necessary. Don't be a hypocrite in the future. Thank you.
When I asked the entire diplomatic corps and the observers, they didn't know about it. The political parties didn't know, but only APNU knew of this declaration because it was part of the plot. And so it was later when we found out that the declaration was made and that they had deliberately, as Mr. Jonas pointed out, calculated what the margin was and gave them just enough to get over that margin. But we knew something was afoot. That's why this morning we uploaded all the statements of poll and our tabulation for Region 4, and we allowed people, independent, anyone, the media could have tabulated themselves the results. And you would see that in those results, the PPP would have about 80,000 votes and APNU 114,000 votes. APNU in these, they fraudulently gave APNU 136,000 votes and reduced the PPP to 77, just to get the over 50,000 margin to offset the lead that we had in the 9 other regions.
Many of us around this table were there, or we had representatives there, overseeing the verification and the inputting of the results for region number 4. All of yesterday and last night, this activity had many delays and setbacks, starting from the RO leaving as a result of feeling sick. Then we had problems finding a DRO to continue. When we found the DRO to continue, the DRO then became tired. We had to find another DRO. It took another few hours to find another DRO. Then that DRO was not to the CEO's desire, that is what he said. We had to wait again. And this was the event that took place all of yesterday, all of last night.
We were looking at clips from a joint press conference by opposition political parties on Thursday evening. The Organization of American States Electoral Observation Mission to the general and regional elections in Guyana on Thursday night said it condemns the act of violence witnessed on the evening of March 5 at the office of the returning officer for Region 4. Such actions should have no place in the electoral process. The mission was present during the several efforts to review and verify the statements of poll in Region 4. Although results were announced, the mission noted that the process did not reach its full and proper conclusion as stipulated in the Electoral Code, and that subsequently the results published by GCOM do not meet the established standards. The mission also noted that legal remedies were pursued by the opposition, People's Progressive Party Civic, but that these were unsuccessful, and the OAS calls for the impasse to be resolved peacefully, employing the relevant provisions in the law. Published results should not be acted upon until that time. The counts should be determined. The courts should determine the best possible way forward, the OAS stated. The OAS said that any resolution should be open and transparent and guarantee that all parties involved in the election have access to the maximum opportunities for redress under the law. The mission urged all citizens to remain calm and called on all political stakeholders to respect the electoral process as prescribed in Guyana's legislations. We're joined once more by Bibi Katoon, who's at GCOM's Command Center, to give us a live update as to the situation down there.
We're still coming to you live from the corners of Bergdam and Avenue of the Republic, a short distance away from the Guyana Elections Commission's Region 4 Command Center, which has been closed since yesterday afternoon. There are some elections observers who are there. However, the media is not allowed to get beyond the barricade. Those elections observers, some of them have arrived after their colleagues would have gotten inside, but in order for them to get access, their colleagues need to come to the barricade, and grant them access to the GCOM Media Center. The center, again, is not open. The persons are awaiting the arrival of some officials from the Guyana Elections Commission, but have been unable to contact the Chief Elections Officer or the Chairperson of the Elections Commission. The supporters of a Partnership for National Unity are still outside of this barricade, where they were converged initially a short distance away in front of the Parliament building, but have come over this side, and the police efforts to try to get them back on that side of the road has not proven to be successful. There are some persons who ended up in altercation with the police over the past couple of minutes trying to climb onto the barricade, but there are also some other persons who were blowing a horn, and this is a silent zone because the magistrate's court is just over on the other side and their court proceedings are ongoing. The police have warned them that if they continue with the noise, they may be brought before the court. There are several other persons who would have gathered on either side of the road, and the police officers' presence have also increased to bring order to this area. We are unsure how long we have to wait before anybody from GCOM turns up to either open the building or to offer a comment about what has been going on. In Region 4, if I could bring you up to date on what is going on in Region 4, Region 4 was the last region to declare the results of the 2020 regional elections. The Guyana Elections Commission has not officially declared the results of the general elections, nor had they have a press conference since Tuesday. In Region 4, there are like 285,610 persons registered to vote. That is the largest region of voters, and the results of this region was declared yesterday afternoon, or were rather released to the media by the public relations officer of the Guyana Elections Commission, Ms. Yolanda Ward. However, the People's Progressive Party and other parties have claimed that this is being done even though more than half of the statements of polls were not verified by GCOM and the political parties. The parties are now calling for a recount. However, that time is fastly approaching for them to give that letter so that they can have that recount, and they have not been able to meet the Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Fluenfield, or the returning officer for Region 4, Mr. Claremont Mingo. Mr. Mingo earlier this week fell ill at GCOM's returning office here, and he had to be taken to the hospital. He was, however, here yesterday. He declared the results, even though persons were challenging that move, given that those results were not verified. We are waiting to see the next step and also to hear from the observers, the international observers who have also condemned that process. We're waiting to hear from them as soon as they can sort out what is going on inside and be able to come back to this barricade to speak with us. In the meantime, the police are trying to quell the crowd outside of the barricade. These are supporters of a Partnership for National Unity. They're dressed in their green t-shirts, and the police are trying to keep them calm and keep them on one side of the road.
Thank you, Bibi, for that update. The Carter Center, in a statement, said it is deeply concerned about the events that took place on Thursday at the Office of the Returning Officer in Region 4 and the decision to
There's
announce
no need
results
for
that
this type
have not been verified. Up until Thursday, the Carter Center said the electoral process had been a remarkably transparent one with well-administered procedures on Election Day that provided an opportunity for the Guyanese people to exercise their will. On Thursday, however, the tabulation process that had been taking place in Region 4 was circumvented, critically undermining transparency and preventing international observers and political parties from observing tabulation, the Carter Center stated. As a result, the Carter Center believes that the results released on Thursday for Region 4 are not credible. According to the center, they believe that there is still an opportunity for the election to have credibility and reflect the will of the people as expressed at the polls on March 2nd. There are a number of rules under Guyanese law that could be utilized in order to ensure credibility, including considering the request for a recount in Region 4. The Carter Center said it is important that the appropriate Guyana Elections Commission officials make clear how much a request can be made and received. With due regard to any concerns about security, the Carter Center encouraged a return to the transparent verification process that has been in place, including the processing of Region 4 statements of poll and the parallel verification process conducted by the CEO. All parties contesting the election deserve a process that is credible and transparent and conducted according to established procedures and applicable law. Whoever wins the election has an interest in ensuring that their victory is seen as credible. And now we have a statement from the People's Progressive Party. Take a look.
Requested to come to GCOM to open the container that have all the documents, the extra documents and statement of poll, extra ballots and so. And we found it very strange. As a matter of fact, I know when I was working in the regions when they have recounts, they normally call the agents with their SOPs and the RO SOPs, and right there they do a recount and they adjust the ballot, the SOPs. So I decided to call Mr. Nandalal, who have a large, legal knowledge, and he have come here, he has spoken to them, and they have decided not to open the container after Mr. Nandalal would have spoken to them. But we found this is very, very strange that after an election, after they would have declared the Region 4 results, now they are calling for blank SOPs, and we are very concerned and we are very suspicious of their activity at GCOM here. I'll ask my colleague, Mr. Nandal, to continue, and he will give you the legal aspect of it and some of the determination, what we know, that things that are taking place in the region.
Thank you very much. As I have explained over and over again, the electoral process is a statutory process. What that means is that it's a legal process set out in an act of Parliament called Representation of the People Act. Every step of the electoral process is laid out section by section. And once this code is followed, then we shouldn't have any problem. The problem that we have had is that this code is being repeatedly violated. This statutory procedure is being repeatedly violated. Now, requests for recounts, or what is called final counts, that is the name, the legal term for a recount, a final count. Requests for that have been made in several regions, including Region 4. In terms of Region 5 and 6, we were told that we need to come and open a container in Georgetown that is a container that has all excess materials for the elections, like extra ballots, extra statement of poll, etc. Now a recount has nothing to do with that. A recount, as it says, is a review of a count already made. The count was already made at the place of poll by the presiding officers and the polling agents at the close of poll. You recall that? So if you want a review of that, the law is very clear. And English language is very clear. A recount means a review of a count already done. It cannot involve, and it does not contemplate, the intrusion of alien material, something that was not counted before. So, and the law sets out how this recount or final count is done. The ballot box in question is opened, and each ballot is examined and recounted. You can't count something that was not counted before in a recount. You can only count what was already counted, as the word recount suggests. So this request for something additional for new statement of poll or a blank statement of poll is sinister. As you know, we are deeply suspicious that there is an attempt to fabricate, duplicate, and forge statements of poll, because we know that they are relying on statements of poll for Region 4 that are inaccurate, that are a forgery. They are doing that. That is why the RO, the returning officer, aborted the process. That is why he can't bring his real statements of poll and show it to the verification process and show it to the observers.
That I will make sure they do not block the road.
Because they have different statements of poll from the ones that were actually used in the electoral process. They fabricated it, and that's why they are arriving at different numbers. This, I believe, was an attempt to get more statements of poll out so that they could insert the numbers and insert the people's signatures for it to appear valid.
So just to get this clear, you were called this morning to assist in helping staff from GCOM to get into a container here.
Normally, when these containers are locked, our agents normally have a lock on it. So all parties. Okay. So every party have to be present before they open the container.
So you were called to go in one of these containers.
Door, right.
Did you ask what you were going in for?
Well, that is why when we asked the reason, they said that we're going in for blank statement of poll to send up the regions.
Who told you they were going in
for blank? The internal editor.
To facilitate a recount, which cannot be possible, legally possible. Right. This container didn't leave here. This container didn't go to Region 5. Nothing in this
I'm
container
coming to you
ever
live
to Region 5
from that settlement
so
on the west coast of Berbice.
To count in Region 6 and Region 5.
It is now 25 minutes to 12. Earlier in the day, there were a lot of protesters here, and they blocked the road. As you can see, some of the items that were used to block the road, preventing the free flow of traffic. But that is their only sin, if they have one at all. These people are frustrated because they have voted overwhelmingly for the PPP to get into government. And for days now, they've been looking at this government, this cabal in government, stealing their vote, trampling on the Constitution of Guyana. And people are obviously frustrated. They are frustrated. They want to see justice. They want to see the tallying of the votes of Region 4 completed, and so we can have a government that is legitimately elected in this country. And obviously they are frustrated. You could see it in their faces. That's why they have turned out in such mass quantities. They, apart from blocking the road, they have been peacefully protesting here. Now, the answer was they brought out riot police in riot gear. Look at that. And they fired tear gas into the crowd, as I have recorded. And of course, the police is denying that, but I have it on video. And all I'm asking the police to do is to let the riot police stand down. Let them stand down. I have given them the assurance that I will guarantee that this thoroughfare remains open. as a senior PPP official in this area. I think I have the respect of most of, they all know who I am. And so if I ask them to stand down to not to block the road, I think they will do that. But the police do not want to get these people to stand down. And so, how are you, sir? And so it's a standoff now. They're heading for a confrontation. And they're looking for a confrontation here. The police could easily defuse the situation. How are you? Yes. The police could easily defuse the situation by letting the police stand down. And that's all I'm asking for them to do. Let the police stand down so they do not provoke the situation. Because these people are not going to move, and I'm not going to ask them to move either. They have a right to vent. They have a right to vent. And it's funny that with all the mass assembly of the APNU supporters last night outside the GCOM building in Georgetown, I didn't see any riot police dispersing them. I didn't see this type of behavior displayed last night against those protesters who were very arrogant and hostile. I didn't see that at all. You know? So this is obviously discrimination. This is a form of discrimination against PPP supporters. Ma'am, again, I'm asking you, you can leave a few traffic police here, leave a few traffic police to make sure that the thoroughfare is open. I will guarantee you there's going to be no blockage of this thoroughfare anymore. Leave a few traffic police to make sure that there's a free flow of traffic. But you have to let your people stand down. It's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. You're going to provoke a situation that you may not be able to control. So I'm asking you, let them stand down. Let them go back to where they came from and leave the traffic police to deal with the traffic. How are you doing there? All right. All is well? Yeah, sir. Good. Which one? This one here? Yeah, and of course. Of course, I agree. I agree, sir. I agree. I agree.
Back this estate and let it go cut cane. And let the cane go to go and do police work. Yes! No, you understand?
Good idea.
Let it go cut cane.
All right. Okay, come off the street. Come off the street. Keep the street clear. Keep the street clear, okay? Keep the street clear. Come off the street. Come off the street.
This morning.
Huh?
We have 3 guys with us this morning. Lock up the guys. I don't know how they're going to come out.
Why they lock him up? y'all clear the street, please. Listen, get off the street. Okay. Don't bother with the hammer. You want a hammer? I'll buy a hammer for him. Listen, whose hammer is it? Listen, you want a hammer? I'll get you a new hammer. Don't bother with it. I'll get you a hammer. Listen, please come off the street. Come off the street. Come off the street.
I don't know about it.
I love. Come off the street, please. Clear the street. Clear the street, please. Clear the street. Okay, listen. Listen, guys. You've all made your point. You've all made your point. My advice to you now is to go home. You've made your point. You have registered your disgust at what is happening to you now. You've been out here long enough. My advice to you is to go home. You go home, and I will get these police officers to move. I want you guys to go home. Do you understand what I'm saying? No, I'm asking you to go out. It is for us. I'm the politician here, not you. We will get him out. Disperse, please. I want you to disperse now. Now, please, go home. Go home. Leave it to us, the politicians. No, you're swearing. We're not going to get into swearing. Please go home now, so that I can talk to the others. Go home now, please. Go home. You've made your point. You've made your point. You've already registered your protest, and they understand you loud and clear. Go home. Please go home, ma'am. Go home. All of you disperse. Now. Go on, please. Go home now. Go. Go home, please. Go home now. All of you. I want you all. Listen. I want you all to go home. You've already registered your protest. They hear you all the way in Georgetown. You're live on Facebook.
And
since I came here,
what is
you're
even
live.
more troubling
I want
is
you
that
to
they would have gotten
disperse.
to a point where they have not even concluded the process in Region 4, and that is troubling. We need the process in Region 4 completed.
You'll be fighting. You know I was going down to Georgetown to help fight this thing. Go home, bro. Go home. We are still fighting for it with the diplomatic community. Please go home. Do not make it difficult. Do not make it difficult for us. Please go home, Chief. Go home. Please go home. Go home. Please disperse. We will let the politicians deal with this. I am dealing with it. Barat Jack, you're dealing with it. Irfan Ali dealing with it. We're now asking you to go home. Disperse. Please go home now. Move, man. Move. Please go home. You're making it difficult for me. Please go home now. Please go home. Disperse. Disperse. Listen, you've all made your point. The world has seen what went on here. Listen, all right, all right. The world has seen what happened. Listen, the world has seen. The world has seen what. Quiet, please. Quiet. The world has seen what happened here. I have it all recorded on Facebook. The world has seen it. Georgetown has heard you. Okay. You've made your point. They've heard you. For your own safety, I'm now asking you to disperse before they bring in more reinforcements and they're going to forcefully move you guys. Okay. So I don't want that to happen. I don't want any injury. Chief, please go home now. Let us, yes, let the politicians deal with it. Okay. Let all the politicians deal with it. Please go home now. You've made your point. You've made your point. Go home. Okay. All right, we'll deal with it. Go home. Go home, Chief. Go home. Y'all go home. Go home now. Chief, go home. Go home. Go home. Just pass. Go home. Go home. Listen to me. So you want the police to come and arrest you? Because that's what's going to happen. Go home. Listen, no, you go home, though. Go home. You will be arrested. You will be arrested. Go home. I'm instructing you to go home. Just first. Go home. Go home. Y'all go home. Go home.
We understand that we would have won 1 seat based on our numbers, and quite possibly 2 if we were to put the joiners together. Now, that being said, it would be a travesty to this country, it would be a travesty to the indigenous peoples if we were to simply subscribe to results and be denied.
So move from here, go inside there. Don't sell anybody anything here. Go over there. Go over there and sell.
Actually gain in this country the balance of power.
Go home. Go home.
I've said it time and time again.
You're not going home. If you get arrested, you're on your own. I'm asking you to go home. I'm asking you guys. Granger, listen to me. Do not incite the crowd. Do not incite the crowd. I'm asking you guys to go home. You've made your point already. You've already made your point. Let the politicians deal with it. They go, and they have to go. And go home, man. Go home. You guys, they're going to send for reinforcement and they're going to lock up a lot of you. That's what you want? They're sending for reinforcement and they will put a lot of you in jail. This is what you want? Now go home. And they will lock you up too. They send for reinforcement. If you all don't go home, they will lock up a lot of you. Go home. Y'all go home, man. I'm pleading with y'all, go home. They're sending for reinforcement. They will lock up a lot of you. Just first, go home. You've made your point. Get off the road, please. Come off the road. Come off the road. You know. All right. I understand. That's why we're fighting for you. Please, y'all go home. Y'all have to disperse so others could move through. You understand? Please, hold on. Listen to me, man. Okay. I understand. Y'all go home. Go home now. Go home. Go home. You are inciting. You are inciting people. No, you are inciting people. And he will go, but you should also go home. You are inciting.
We gonna declare PPP victory. PPP victory.
And you're not helping the PPP by doing what you're doing. You're not helping us.
It's the we democratic right. It's the we democratic right. We need satisfaction. They're rigging the fucking election.
You know, it is difficult.
Granger must go.
And he will go, but you gotta leave it to the politicians. Right? You made your point. Go home, sir. Go home, please. Take a family with you to go home. Listen to me. Listen to me. Go home. Go home. All right. But go home. We will deal with that.
On our camera.
We will deal with that.
The vehicle is damaged. The entire back door and iron was thrown into the police. It is damaged.
Listen to me. You're just listen. All right. Listen to me. Listen to me. Go home. Lady, go home. We will deal with it. Let us deal with it for you. But you have to go home. You're not helping their cause. You're not helping their cause behaving the way you do. Go home. We will deal with it. We will deal with it. You go home. Disperse. Disperse.
Then we are go home when PPP declare victory.
Chief, you are provoking the situation.
We're not going home.
You should go home.
We are not going home.
You guys go home. Go home. You know, they're going to send. They're going to send for reinforcement. They're sent for reinforcement, and they're going to lock up a lot of you. They're going to lock up a lot of you. That's what they will do.
Everybody going. Everybody going.
Don't say I didn't warn you. They will not only lock you up, they're going to come with batons and beat you all. Believe me. You guys go home. Disperse. You've already made your point. Go home. I want you to go home. Please, go home. Go home. I want to be able to send the police away, but they will not go unless you guys disperse. You understand? You guys, please, disperse and go home. You've made your point already. There's no sense staying on here and provoking the situation anymore. Please go home so that I can get the police to leave too. Let us, we will deal with that, but we can't deal with it when you all are here now. Go home. You guys go home and stop. Go off the road, Get off the road, please.
Come off the road.
Go home. Go home. You are not serving the purpose by doing what you're doing here. You've made your point. Now it's time for you to go home. We are fighting for your cause. So we are fighting that. So we are fighting for that. But you already made your point. Chief, you already made your point. Go home now. Guys, I have this on video on Facebook Live. The world has seen it, okay? The world has seen that you came out here and you were peacefully protesting, and they've seen that the fire, they sent for the riot squad and they threw tear gas and all that. It's all recorded here. You've made your point. You've made your point. You've been out here long enough. They will send for reinforcement. They will send for reinforcement to forcefully move you guys. I don't want anybody injured. You understand? You've made your point. Go home to your families. Let the politicians deal with it. I was going to Georgetown to meet up with Irfan Ali and Jagdeo and all of them to help out. But, you know, I had to stay here to do what I'm doing. I'm asking you to disperse. Go home so I can move the police. Go home. And so I could prevent more police coming with batons to beat you guys. You see, you're going to have, more police will come. More police will come. And they're not going to ask you to move. They will forcefully move you. I want to prevent any injuries. Go home. Go home. Let the politicians deal with it. I asked the same question, but you know the answer more than I do. You know the answer to that. You know the answer. You know the answer. So I'm asking you guys, disperse. Disperse so I can go and talk to another group. Please. Please. I don't have 5 minutes to give you. I have to go and ask other people to disperse. You've made your point. You protested. The world has seen you protesting. There's no need to stay here and for the police to bring reinforcement and beat you guys. They will do that. They will do that. And they will arrest more of you. Go home. We don't want you. We do not want you suffering any injuries. Please. Please, go home, Chief. Y'all go home. Go home. We need you to come out. They will call you out. When we need you to protest, we will tell you to protest. You understand? But what I'm asking you to do now, as a senior member of the PPP in Region 5, I'm asking you to go home, please. 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 Please go home. Let us show some leadership. Go home. And let me deal with this, okay? Please. Guys, y'all disperse and go home, please. You already made your point. It's recorded and the world to see. I have this live on Facebook. All right, y'all go home. Don't stick around to see what will happen. They're already sending for reinforcements. When reinforcements come, they're going to come to beat you guys. They're going to come and ask you nicely to move. They're not going to stand up like that. They're going to move in. They're going to move in with tear gas and batons and beat you guys into submission. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're trained to do. Ma'am,
Fighting for
no.
democratic rights.
Well, you go out there. I'm
You
talking to
understand?
my people, okay?
We fight
Listen,
for democratic rights.
you are provoking the situation, and it's not helping anybody here. It's not helping the PPP. You're not helping us. You are not helping us. You are not helping us. Go home, disperse, and stop drinking. Okay? Go home, disperse, and stop drinking. You are not helping our cause. You are not helping it. You see, you're going to get locked up, and when you get locked up, don't call for Nandalal to help you. You understand? Go home. I'm asking you.
Where's PPP?
We're going to get the result. Listen. We the politicians here. We the ones got to fight for it. So we're asking you to go home. Go home. Go home. We are fighting for your rights. We are fighting for your rights. Allow us to fight us. Allow us to fight for your rights. That's all I'm asking you to do. No, you got to disperse first before we can move them. Please. Please, please, please. Please, go home. Go home. I don't want to hear from you. You're provoking the situation. No. You guys, please go home. Go. You are not helping the cause.
Are we going to get
I'm the senior PPP official in this area. I'm asking you to disperse. Go home. Go home. All right, go home. Let us deal with it. Let the politicians deal with it. Okay? You know what they will do? They're gonna bring reinforcement and start beating you guys. And I don't want that to happen to you. Go home. Go home, please. Go home. Go home. Go home, man, please. Please. Y'all go home, please. Please, y'all go home. Understand, please. Y'all disperse so I can get rid of the police. Go home so I can just get rid of the police.
We not go home, Harry. We're there whole night.
You see, when they come back, it will be with batons and they would beat people. And I cannot. You have made your point, bro. It is recorded for the world to see. I have it live on Facebook. You do not need to put innocent lives at risk. There have a lot of young girls here, a lot of women here. You cannot put them at risk. If it is the PPP who brought them out, I will take responsibility. You understand? Yeah. If it is the PPP, listen, ma'am. If it is the PPP who tell people to come out and protest, the party will hold themselves responsible for the safety of everybody. Right now, you've made your point. That is what I said. So if you were listening, you would understand what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is this: you cannot ask young children and men and women to yes, but we are fighting for your rights. The politicians, all right. So I'm asking you to disperse, go home. And if it continues, if this continues, we will ask you to come back out. Believe me, if we don't get justice, the PPP will ask you to come back out. Do you understand? But right now, I know, so you know the reason why.
So the Guyanese critic is coming to you from Rejection for Daybreak News. Oh my God. Police are here and are making attempts to contain a crowd that has gathered here at Rejection and
to come back out. Believe me.
What are you asking for? What this is about? So police asked, the riot police here, and they asked. So the police are asking.
If anybody but the other from me, they can use life and death situation in here. You know what's going on. You don't fear me. But now, we're seeing the reincarnation of Borna happening here right now. And this never happened. This never happened. No way. We Indians will support. We still like to support. Fight for the right here, right now.
The police are trying to contain the situation here. For those of you who have just tuned in, the Guyanese critic is coming to you from, and to some extent the traffic is moving back. Senior police rank was able to come and hello. What's going on here? Please tell me.
A standoff because today is our founder and leader, Comrade Rejection. Today is his death anniversary. So we ask our comrades want justice. We want to know what's happening in our country. So for us to do this, we have to be very peaceful today.
No, but what's the intention? What is it to get?
We want our votes to become.
Okay. So, this is a case whereas...
This is not about race critics. This is nothing to do with race. This is about democracy.
So, you have a number of... most of these residents I know. This is Luziknan. I am just at the side of the Luziknan market. And a lot of women out here, funny enough. One individual explained, as much as people are saying different things, the intention, one individual just told me, is to get a it is the Region 4 vote. So this is the pandit. This is one of the pandits from this area. So, Pandit Harish, give me an idea what's going on. What's this about? What you expect to get out of this? Well, tell me now, tell me.
This is about democracy.
Yo, calm down. Jesus Christ. This is a tense situation. Guys, if anybody's passing through the Luziknan area in the East Coast area, don't agitate anything. If you see a crowd of people saying anything, talking anything, you don't have The Guyanese Critic is coming to you from Luziknan. I was heading to Berbice and so the Guyanese Critic is coming to you from Luziknan for Daybreak News. Oh my God. Police are here and are making attempts to contain a crowd that has gathered here at Luziknan. And what are you guys asking for? What are you asking for? What this is about? So police ask, the riot police here, and they ask. So the police are asking.
If anybody for the area come me, they can say life and death situation in the area. You know what's going on. You don't fear me. But now, we seeing the reincarnation of Borna happening here right now. And this never happen. This not happen nowhere. We Indians will support. We support. Fight for the right here, right now.
The police are trying to contain the situation here. For those of you who've just tuned in, the Guyanese Critic is coming to you from, and to some extent the traffic is moving back. Senior police rank was able to come And hello, what's going on here? Please tell me.
We were asking for a standoff because today is our founder and leader, Comrade Rejection. So we ask our comrades want justice. We want to know what's happening in our country. So for us to do this, we will be very peaceful today.
No, but what's the intention? What is it again?
We want our votes to become.
Okay. So, this is a case whereas...
This is not about race critics. This is nothing to do with race. This is about democracy.
So, you have a number of... most of these residents I know. This is Luziknan. I am just at the side of the Luziknan market.
Man. Yeah, and the people can go decom where they vote and protect the decom vote and come here. There's a peaceful rally here and they come in and with big gun and a crack up them gun from we. Why don't they go in and protect the ballot box in Georgetown? They might only come here for harass innocent people.
So there's a guy. Yeah, so the Guyanese Critic is coming to you from, for those of you who just tuned into Daybreak News, I'm coming to you from the east coast of Demerara, where on my way to Berbice I would have encountered a crowd. They're just gone back just that way and they're all across the road. The police have diverted the traffic to the southern lane, and there's an amassing there of people, and there's the riot police quite a bit back that way. And these individuals are asking for accountability. Well, you hear people saying they gotta go, but I don't think it should be like that, but that is not me. That's not my call. In this case, again, all I could ask for is a very tense situation. And if you're coming up on the East Coast, you're coming through the area, we don't need to face off. We don't need to have a standoff here. Whatever happens, I hope it is kept peaceful. You know, for people who have their family out here, protesting out here, let them know. There's nothing wrong with coming and express how you feel, but you gotta maintain the peace. It's very important.
Results of the March 2 general and regional elections. Quite a large number of forces out here. There is reinforcement by the Ghana police force. They are here trying to exercise some level of control. As it is, the roadway, the northern roadway, the northern end of the public road leading up the eastern end of the East Coast Highway has been blocked off. This bus, as we are seeing here, this bus was heading up east. It has to turn back now. And what it would do by turning back is breaking the law by heading up what this end basically a one way. So this here is at Luziknan on the east coast of Demerara. The police officer is asking that these persons clear the road to ensure that there's free flow of traffic. Seems that they are not requesting for that call, acceding to that request.
This is our time. They can't rob us anymore. This is 19, not 1970s. We are a democratic country. Ranger, go! It's time for you, Fanali, go!
I vote and I want my vote to be counted.
So, for those of you who just tuned in, the Guyanese critic is coming to you from the east coast of Demerara. And
stand your ground, don't use racial language.
so one of the organizers is telling the people, you know, not to use racial language. Yeah, I'm hoping they take heed of this. If you got family out here, if you got family outside, you know, heed of this. If you got family out here, if you got family outside, first let's see what's gonna happen. And I don't think anything could come out of us hurting each other. When it's done, we're all Guyanese. Let's tense situation. It's obvious. More than half of our country is dissatisfied with what is going on as a result of GCOM, what's being seen as a lackadaisical attitude. But nonetheless, let the process take its course. Let's see what's going to happen. And I don't think anything could come out of us hurting each other. When it's done, we're all Guyanese. Let's try